What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of CryptoZombie. So you probably have noticed the price of Bitcoin is not doing quite well today. We actually got down to around $34,000 for Bitcoin. And if we have a look actually at just all of the assets essentially across the board, you could see that according to 8 market cap, purple means that we are down. And over the past week, the majority of virtually everything is down. So something did in fact happen, and if you have been paying attention, we do know that Russia has in fact invaded Ukraine. And that's why today's video, we're going to skip the funny intro because it is a little bit more of a serious topic. There is absolutely nothing funny about war, about people dying, there's bombs going off. So this is not a channel specifically where we talk about politics or what's happening in, the globe. However, I think we do need to somewhat touch on this today since it does affect more than just the parties at hand. There are a lot of investors as well. This is a crypto channel, and whether or not we like it, it's going to have a trickle-down effect on cryptocurrencies and stocks and things of that nature. So in today's video, I just wanted to talk about what is happening, what are the implications, how bad is it really, especially for things like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and what we can expect moving forward. So I do hope you guys appreciate a little bit of a different style of a video today. Obviously, tomorrow we can get right back to normal, but I did want to talk about this. So let's dive in and have a look at what is happening right now specifically. Let's get right to the point, guys. So you could see that not only if we actually go back and we see all of this, red across the board, or it's actually purple on this website, but if we do look at some of the biggest losers, we have Ethereum, Alibaba, Bitcoin, Tesla, Home Depot, Tencent, okay, which is showing us that apparently Bitcoin is not exactly the safe haven asset that everyone thought it was. Now, before everyone freaks out, this is not a bad thing right now. Bitcoin is very, very young, and I will talk a little bit more about that later because my opinion on Bitcoin has not changed. But what you are noticing right here, for example, you can see that we do have 3 precious metals right here in the top. Palladium up 11%, silver 4%, and gold 1% as well, showing obviously that during these times of uncertainty, we are seeing investors going into those traditional safe haven assets, right? The less riskier assets. And this is also happening during a time where we have seen the dollar pumping. Now, ultimately, as I've been saying, the dollar is descending, right? And it does look like it is forming this giant descending triangle, which I do anticipate eventually breaking to the downside. But right now there is a lot going on. In fact, you could see right here, the S&P had a landslide yesterday during the close and opened way below here. Way below. So, biggest question is, should we be worried for more downside, or is this actually an amazing opportunity to be buying? Well, we have to have a look at what's happening globally because it's not just Bitcoin or stocks. You can see right here, the MOEX Russian index sinks 32%. And if we have a look, Germany's DAX index down more than 5%, the worst one-day loss since June of 2022. As Russia invades Ukraine. So as you guys can see, things are not looking too great short term. In fact, today, Biden is looking to impose additional sanctions on Russia now that the Ukraine assault is underway. And most likely, he's going to be giving that speech or will have given that speech by the time you are watching this video. So let me just go into a little bit outside of whatever, most of this you could just Google, but let's talk about the stuff that obviously viewers of a crypto channel would be very interested in listening to. And that's the fact that Ukraine's central bank has suspended the country's electronic currency markets. Now, they did just recently legalize Bitcoin, but now this is a little strange because this comes after the Ukrainian president imposed martial law in the country following the invasion of Russian forces earlier today. The National Bank of Ukraine implemented new rules this morning, including an order to suspend e-money issuers, stop the replenishment of e-wallets with e-money, and halt distribution of e-money to e-money issuing banks. E-money does refer to digital fiat cash used with various payment and traditional banking applications, does not refer to cryptocurrencies. So why is this happening right now? Well, something that's actually kind of crazy that we were looking up right here is that the Russian ruble if we actually look at this, crashed 20% earlier today before the central bank intervened, with it still being down 10%. The bazooka of sanctions is specified with the EU's Ursula von der Leyen stating, "We will weaken Russia's economic base and its capacity to modernize. Banks and ATMs in Moscow are no longer giving out euros or dollars. Currency exchanges have also stopped trading rubles for dollars and euros as the Russian currency spirals." There are reports, the reports that there are queues at the banks and currency exchange points are forming in Moscow, where there's an increased police presence in the streets as Russian tanks roll on Ukrainian streets, however, and as planes bomb Ukrainian cities, war in Europe has begun. So, yeah, I mean, we're already seeing a potential attempt at a bank run, and, we're seeing Ukraine blocking all forms of e-currency. Now, speaking about Bitcoin, is this good for Bitcoin? Well, that's what everybody says, because everything is good for Bitcoin, right? Well, let's have a look. It is worth noting that Russia is one of the largest producers of gold in the world. Additional sanctions imposed by the West, might exacerbate the difficulties in the global supply chain. Now, if you look at what U.S. global investor CEO Frank Holm is saying, he is saying that gold is your best bet. He says when you look at gold, it has a very long history of significance as a wonderful asset, and it's really showing up whenever you have war. Bitcoin is a new phenomenon. Historically, it's been gold, and I would stick with that one. Once we get more regulations that come into the crypto ecosystem, then Bitcoin will take on as another leg of interest globally. But if you have a look at what Mike McClone is saying, he's saying that the stock market may be more vulnerable than Bitcoin. So about 20% below its 50-week moving average, Bitcoin is approaching a too cold level that has often resulted in good price support. Our graphic depicts the most extreme discount for crypto versus its annual average since 2020 and 2018 lows. Now, I personally believe that Bitcoin is slowly becoming a safe haven asset, but it is still very speculative, and we don't have that today, but it is slowly building that. In fact, where is it right here? If I find up here, so you have Key Young Jew over at CryptoQuant, and he was responding to what Sam from Alameda had said, and he said, agreed, no significant on-chain activities during this war crisis. Institutions who bought Bitcoin via on-chain transactions seem not to have sold their holdings yet. Institutions running algorithmic trading bots think Bitcoin is a tech stock. I'd rather stay until Saylor sells. Now, I don't know what he means by when Saylor sells. I don't know if Michael Saylor is going to sell, but essentially we haven't really seen any of these big investors, especially in the Western hemisphere, that aren't just sort of trying to, algorithmically use their trading bots to sort of bet on Bitcoin. They haven't sold, right? They are still holding. So you can't really say that, exactly they're panicking, but we do have to look at the fact that Bitcoin also is a global phenomenon as well. So moving towards the Russian aspect, and then we'll talk a little bit more how this could affect the U.S. A lot of my viewers are from the U.S., so I'm sure you want to hear about that that could affect us. But according to the New York Times, Russian companies have many cryptocurrency tools at their disposal to evade these sanctions, including a so-called digital ruble and ransomware. When the U.S. barred Americans from doing business with Russian banks, oil and gas developers, and other companies in 2014 after the country's invasion of Crimea, the hit to Russia's economy was swift and immense. Economists estimated that sanctions imposed by Western nations cost Russia $50 billion a year. However, since then, the global market for cryptocurrencies and other digital assets has ballooned. That is bad news for enforcers of sanctions and good news for Russia. Now, would this create an emergency act where Biden would come out and just say all cryptocurrencies are banned right now? We have to do a global ban because, these guys are evading sanctions. Well, we could attempt to do that. We could try to do that, but it most likely wouldn't work. All it would do is stifle innovation, hurt some of the Western investors like you and I and other people who are holding cryptocurrencies, but it would not stop Bitcoin. It would still be used, it would still be hoarded, it would still be mined, and Russia could potentially look to become the global leader in Bitcoin. To which Pompliano says, the United States is going to eventually realize that becoming the most pro-Bitcoin country will be a matter of national security. This is not a drill. We must start immediately, right? So, deplatforming Russia from SWIFT system feels like a real possibility. So according to Miles Suter, he says this would mark the end of the USD global reserve currency era and kick off countless cascading externalities to the current system and incalculably accelerate the emerging crypto era. Very, very interesting. So how would this affect what the Fed is looking to do? Well, in a time like this, honestly, it might just be a great excuse for the Fed to lean dovish again and just go back to money printing so they can save their friends on Wall Street, right? And prop the stocks back up. And like I said, it would just be something to blame. That way, oh, well, inflation is through the roof. You know what, guys? We'll deal with it in a few years from now. This situation is really serious, what's happening with Russia. We can't go through with this. We need to make sure that we're economically stable. So let's just pump more money back into the economy. And what I said in yesterday's video, like Max Kaiser had pointed out, that was a strong possibility. But now, I know a lot of you are here today to talk about specifically how this could affect all of us. Now, interestingly enough, Charles Edward pointed out the impact of war on markets. Now, I do not believe in wars. I hate wars. I don't understand why they happen. I historically, you know, I'm not trying to get political here. It would be nice if we could just talk things out, but unfortunately in the real world, that's not how things work sometimes. But nevertheless, we have wars. Historically speaking, as Charles Edwards pointed out, invasions, so usually the day of the invasion, tends to mark the bottom or close to the bottom. The Afghanistan war right here, you can see there was a little bit of a fake out. There was a bounce right there, but it did continue to fall. But the Vietnam War, here was the dump, continued upward. The Gulf War, we also had this fake out dump. It continued. Iraq War down here, and the Crimean crisis, we also had a fake out dip. So he says the most recent wars on record were relatively small and did not involve a significant risk of potential escalation to a direct conflict between multiple major powers. The Ukraine war could. Okay, so that is something to just note. So very oftentimes you do see those deep V shapes, essentially like we had back here when we had the Black Swan event for COVID. COVID was obviously something that affected the world globally. Right now, we have to see. I've heard people talking about World War III and things like that. I don't want that. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm not like, yeah, World War III, so we can crash the dollar, reset everything, and then Bitcoin can bounce. No, that's not what I want. That's not how I want things to go down. But you can see that usually after these extreme deep Vs, we do go on parabolic, pretty much parabolic moves after that. So, if we were to have the beginning of a war and we do have that invasion, would that spark the bottom? Is that what we're seeing, in the S&P right now? Is that what this drop off is that we're seeing right here? And is this going to, eventually look for a big V-shaped recovery? I don't really know. I'm not one for really analyzing assets during wars. I've, only clearly been doing this crypto thing for 6 years. So we didn't have any, crazy crises like this, although we have always sort of had wars going on in the background. But like I said, this is a crypto channel. So, specifically looking at these levels that we do need to hold, we did bounce above this legacy support, which was actually good. Ultimately, you really don't want to see Bitcoin fall below that $29,000 level. We are in a zone of massive support right here, and we are still above the 100 daily moving average, 100 weekly moving average. So for the most part, you could say that we kind of just have to see what's going on. But, like Charles Edwards pointed out, a better comparison to today's Ukraine war is the pre-information age conflicts such as Korea and World War II, which, by the way, there's also other things going on now with China and Taiwan, which we'll talk about later. But he says from onset, these had an average drawdown of 16%, bottoming within 1 to 5 months. Assuming Russia is seeking an empire-building campaign, potentially with others, I believe there's been a lot more pricing in today, though, given the depth and speed of communications in 2022 and broader market efficiencies. The day is not out yet, but the market is not weighing the situation based on prior expectations and new information as the situation unfolds. So essentially, we do have to see how this plays out. I don't think it'll be amazing necessarily for Bitcoin short term, but I could see the US ultimately deciding, that they're not going to go through with their rates, that they do need to keep pumping money in. And yeah, I don't know what the Biden executive order is going to end up saying on crypto. I know that today they're speaking about the sanctions, and they're speaking actually, they might be speaking right now as you're making this video. But for the most part, guys, if I had to leave you with anything today, and I do hope you guys stayed to the end of the video, unfortunately, it's not good to see times like this. You don't want to see COVID crashes, pandemic crashes. You don't want to see wars. You don't want to see things like this. They're not good things. They're not good, right? I believe in love. I say I love you guys. I say I love you guys. I say that on the channel. I don't care. I do love you guys. I love everyone. I love the world. You're all my brothers and sisters. But ultimately, these happen, and unfortunately, they do provide potentially good opportunities for buying. So, you hear people say you need to buy when there's blood in the streets. You need to buy when everyone is fearful, and you need to sell when everyone is greedy. Well, these are those moments where people are fearful, where people are actually scared. So if you are looking at Bitcoin and you believe in it like I do from a long-term perspective, these are actually the opportunities for accumulation that everyone's been waiting for. It sucks when we go through them, and I'm not happy to be going through this during a time that has to do with war, of course, but that is the situation that we're in. And, historically speaking, if we do go back, you can see that for the most part, those were the buying opportunities, is when everybody was scared. So I just wanted to leave you with all that, guys. Thank you for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. You're the reason that I make these videos. I do love you. I am sorry to hear this. It's terrible that we're at war, and I don't know how it's going to escalate. I have no idea what's going to happen with what Biden is going to say today, and I also have no idea what Biden's going to say as far as his crypto executive order that's supposed to come out at the end of this month as well. I do know that cryptocurrencies are actually a tool to evade these sanctions. Will Russia end up using crypto? I don't know. We've seen how they're hoarding their Bitcoin or their gold. Maybe they're going to feel the same way about crypto as well. Ultimately, though, if you ask me my opinion, it's not just because I'm biased. I still do believe that Bitcoin is the best on planet Earth. And although gold is what you do see people running, keep in mind, gold's only up like 2%. So it's not like it's skyrocketing, but it is acting as more of a safe haven clearly than Bitcoin is. But I believe that in our lifetime, we will see Bitcoin hit that safe haven, reserve asset for the world. And I do believe that it's only a matter of time. And these opportunities, when everyone's panicking and everyone's freaking out and there's global uncertainty and nobody knows what's going on, they don't know if it's going to get banned. They don't know, what Biden's going to come out and say. They don't know what's going to happen with the war, World War III, blood in the streets, people screaming, freaking out. From an investment standpoint, nothing talking about ethics or what's going on in the world, usually that's the time to be buying. So I'm just going to leave you on that, because I'm not saying that I want there to be a war or I want the world to collapse in order to get a good buy the dip opportunity. But I am saying, historically speaking, that usually is the case. So be safe out there. I hope you guys are doing all right today. I hope you're having a great day. And, if this is, like I said, if it's too much, you could just close the crypto portfolio. You don't have to check the price every 5 minutes every day. But I do think that at the end of this, just like everything, even with what's going on with the war, I do believe that ultimately it will end for the best. Ultimately, I don't know when or how, but I know that we as people will find a way. Okay, that's what we do, right? Sure, we're very good at destroying things, but we're also very good at fixing them and solving problems. And I do believe that ultimately, once this is solved, I think that we will look back financially on this as a silly time in the US with everything that they're doing right now, and as a moment of potential opportunity. But let me know what you guys think about this. It's a very sensitive topic. I don't even like talking about this on the channel. Probably not going to talk about it this much tomorrow. This is a crypto channel. It's not a political channel, but we did have to sort of go over what's happening and how it could relate to us as crypto investors as well. So thank you so much for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. I love you. You're awesome. Stay crypto. My name's K-Dub. This is CryptoZombie. And most importantly, my friends, peace out.